today. You're welcome to have your camera on if you feel comfortable. We'd love to see your beautiful face. Like I was like, come as you are. It doesn't matter if you're in pajamas or winter woolies. I'm in thermals and I've just blinged myself up with a caftan just to be bright and colorful. But yes, underneath I've got like 3 layers on. So I understand that it's pretty cold in Melbourne, Victoria, like, wherever you are in the world. Obviously it's winter time in the southern hemisphere. Happy winter solstice. I hope you had a beautiful winter solstice, and I'm sure there's many celebrations happening this weekend. My beautiful parents visited us from England. We hadn't seen them for 3.5 years. And they've been with my brother and sister, and then they're visiting us, coming back today. And we do a lovely celebration called Yule's Fest that we've basically made up. So it's a combination of Christmas and winter, and we just do the things we really love. My husband is from Finland, I'm from England, so we've made our own tradition, and we're having that this weekend, which is beautiful. So log fires and beautiful roast dinner and some small gifts and mulled wine and all the beautiful Christmassy things without the stress of Christmas, I'd like to add. Like, it's not actually Christmas, it's called Yule's Fest. So something that we just love to celebrate winter, and family, of course, is really important. So I wanted to welcome you all today and really honor your time. We're going to talk about time today, and I like to reframe time to think about it in terms of energy. We all have certain amount of time. Time is capped, time is limited, but energy, of course, is expansive. So you've chosen to come today, and I really honor that. And for everyone who chooses to watch the replay, hello there. I really honor you watching that as well, because you have a choice. You don't have to tune into this. You can go off and do all the other things. And I always like to say that free will is something we all have as human beings, but it can ultimately be our most faithful servant, or it can be our biggest destruction, right? Like, we have freedom of choice. So we can go out there and we can prioritize our wellness, and we can plug into our spiritual journey, and we can make all these great choices, or we can just become a victim of our addictive behaviors, where we drink too much and we watch things that don't serve us, or we get lost in chaos and overwhelm. And this happens to all of us. But our job as, evolving spiritual human beings is to cultivate awareness. Like, I really believe our purpose in this world is to cultivate a deep level of awareness, so we can go out there and we can evolve on our spiritual path. And while we do that, we're inspiring others to do the same. So you've probably seen me spam the internet recently. I was very lucky to go to Bali and have a beautiful experience there with one of my wonderful teachers from the Institute of Intuitive Intelligence. And I did a photo shoot, and it was very vulnerable, and I got very visible, and I took my clothes off in the jungle. And it was an amazing experience. And now I'm sharing a lot of these photos online, and some of them are in the presentation, because I really want to inspire, the midlife woman, right? Like, I'm 3 years off 50, to really love who they are and be that divine source, and to really inspire others to do the same. We're all magical, beautiful women. I've had 3 children. My body is not the same as it was when I did a lot of yoga back in the day. And we really just have to really honor ourselves and love ourselves. And so I did it so that I could look back on these photos in my 70s and go, wow, you look so good. Because we do that, right? Like, we look back at ourselves in our 20s and go, I hated how I looked, but I looked amazing. Right? But at the time, we didn't honor how great we looked. And then as time goes on, so I'm going to frame my favorite one, and I'm going to have it on my desk, and I'm going to remember that moment where I was in my wildness. And so today we're going to be talking about the 3 keys to activating radiant health and wellness. And I'm very connected with the wild woman. She's very vulnerable. She's very raw. She's very real. She's really connected to her sexual power and her sexual energy, which is our life force energy. And we all have this capacity to create from our womb space, our sacral chakra, which lives in our womb, which is our fire. It's, in yogic terms, it's our inner tapas. And we all have this ability to be really connected with that. Oh, thank you. That's so beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really passionate about sharing these photos. And I know some people will be totally repelled by that. Like, what are you doing? But I know that I had a beautiful session with a dear friend of mine in terms of human design, which of course you're probably all very familiar with. And she said, you are a Prada in a sea of, no, you are a Gucci in a sea of Kmarts. And I was like, yes, I am. So I know that I will find my tribe and scare away all the other people that are just like, that is too much for me. And so I honor you for being here today. So I'm going to share some beautiful slides with you. Just because I love doing pretty presentations. I work a lot in the corporate realm as well. And so I like to do pretty content, but there will be time when we can come together and we can have discussions. And I really welcome you to use the chat box as well. So just to, engage with me and let me know if it resonates. Just a little bit of a housekeeping tip. If you want to change your viewing on the top right-hand side, you can put it on speaker view, which means you'll just see the speaker as well. So when my screen is shared, you'll just see me. But it's really nice to be on gallery view when we come back and share, because we can all see each other. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to share my screen. Here is my pretty presentation. So can everyone see that okay? So you can see me in the corner and you can see my screen. Okay, beautiful. So unlock your inner compass. 3 keys to activating your innate intuition so you can radiate health and wellness. So our intuition is totally innate. It is not just given to some people. Everyone has this amazing, powerful tool inside our body. And with what's happening in the world with artificial intelligence, I'm sure we've all been using ChatGPT. I love ChatGPT. It's a fantastic tool, as long as it still sounds like your authentic voice. I think it's a really great tool. But with AI, that's literally going to take over the world, what I believe is that if we can activate our intuitive intelligence, our innate intuition, like that is our superpower as a human being, because AI can't do that, right? AI can't connect with the universe and have this incredible channel for divine guidance. And this is something that I'm really passionate about sharing, because we all have this ability to be able to go out there and be really, really sovereign in our choices and our decisions. And so it's all about radical self-trust. And it's all about knowing that if we get that intuitive guidance, whether it's a whisper or if it's a full-blown nudge, right? It's like, you need to go and do this. We act on that. We act on that. So I just wanted to recap so that you hopefully feel like you're in the right place. So I just wanted to ask you, use the chat box to connect with me. But does this resonate? You really want to feel vibrant wellness. I know I do. I really want to wake up every day and just have this abundance of energy. I definitely want more time as well. And interestingly, what we're going to do today is talk about the concept of time, because I like to reframe it to, I work a lot in that corporate space, and it's all about time management. And it's like, that's just the wrong way of thinking about time, because it's all about energy. So it's manage your energy, not your time. We all want more support. I've had so many great mentors and teachers on my journey, and I've got 3 young children, and my eldest was diagnosed with autism 5 years ago. My daughter has now been diagnosed with autism. So my little one is probably going to have it too. And so I want that support to be able to give my children the space that they need, because they're going to be brought up in a world that, quite frankly, will reject them, because the world isn't very kind to children who are different. And so I'm seeking that support to support them so that I can then go and support others, right? Like, we can't hold all of it, like, we are incredible women. We are mothers, we are wives, we are sisters, but we can't hold everything and do everything at the same time. It's just not possible. So it's really important that we get the support that we need, whether it's from teachers, mentors, government funding, whatever it is that we need. We must go out there and get that support for ourselves. And let me know if this resonates with you, but like, I am really wanting to be devoted to my intuition. And the word devotion, we're all devoted to something, right? We're all, you know, it might be being devoted to being a voice for your children in a world that doesn't understand them. It might be your spiritual practice. It might be your partner. It might be your service. Like, let me know, what are you devoted to? And so that the word devotion is this, it's a beautiful relationship that you have with something or someone. And so I really want to become devoted to my intuition. And what that means is that when I get that guidance, and I'm going to explain to you how the mind and the brain works and how we get that intuitive guidance. But when I get that, like, I'm going to act on it, right? Like, I'm not going to second guess it. I'm not going to self-sabotage. I'm going to be like, I need to go and do a naked photo shoot in Bali. And even though that scares the pants off me, I'm going to do that because I'm meeting my edge. And I know that when I meet my edge and I go into my fear, there is so much magic and freedom on the other side of that. Like, would you agree with that? Yes, devoted to my sovereignty, devoted to my family and my work. Beautiful. And so my personal mission is to really help other women. I work with men too, but my soul work is to really guide beautiful, awake women on their journey, to get them to really, really be devoted to their intuition, because that is actually all you need. You really just need to be connected to your intuitive guidance, because that's going to affect your thoughts, which is going to affect your feelings, which is going to affect your reality. And I'm going to share with you how that is a connection, and how we need to be very mindful of what we're thinking and feeling, because we are creating our reality in every moment. So here's one of my beautiful photos from my recent Bali experience. And I have to share with you, this is so hilarious. My beautiful friend Kia West is an incredible photographer. And I'd sent her some photos of someone doing this on Instagram. And there was this photo of this woman like rising out the water like a goddess. She's like, right, go under the water and rise up. And I did. And I ended up swallowing most of the pool water, which meant I then had to sit on the toilet for most of the day the next day. And it's just this really funny story where we got the shot, but it was a cleansing experience. So every time I see that photo, yes, it's beautiful, but it was funny when we were trying to take these photos. And that's what we do, right? We throw ourselves into the deep end. And one of my analogies with life is jump off the cliff, right? Whatever it is that you're being called to do, and build the plane on the way down, right? Like, we can figure it out. We are intelligent human beings. But for most of us, we're too stuck in our thoughts and our fears and our victim cycles to sometimes even take the first step. Right? We self-sabotage all the time. So my journey has taught me, just commit to writing a book or doing whatever it is that you really want to do, and you will figure it out as you go. So I really wanted to invite you to think about, what does your highest vision feel like? It's not what does it look like, it's what does it feel like? So we can close our eyes and we can see ourselves in 3 to 5 years, and we can imagine and use our incredible imagination here. And we can visualize ourselves. Maybe it's standing in front of 5,000 people speaking. Maybe it's living in a dream home that you've built with your partner. Maybe it's traveling around the world and you're a global best-selling spiritual teacher, right? You've built this whole empire. But what I want you to really understand here is, to manifest what you want to bring into your life, you have to feel like you already have it. So if you were to say, I want to lose 5 kilos, or I want to earn $1 million, what you're saying is, I want that. That's the energy of want. I look beautiful in my body, and I'm so grateful to have lost that weight. That is the energy of, I've already done it, and I feel really good in my body, and I can imagine what that feels like. And that was one of my intentions this year. I had my goal of my photo shoot, and I wanted to lose 4 kilos that I'd very slowly put on after having my 3 babies. And I wanted to go back to what feels like my ideal body weight. So I'm not about weighing yourself on scales. I'm about how does your body feel? And I did. I got myself back to my ideal weight of 60 kilos, and I've stayed that way. And for me, that's because I want to feel energetic in my body. I want to feel vibrant health and wellness. I didn't go on diets. I did use fasting. I did use detoxing, which are practices that are spiritual. But I certainly didn't, do radical things that, I didn't do shakes or anything, like whatever people go out there and keto or all of these diets. I just tuned in with what my body needed at that time. And it was really quite effortless. I thought it was going to be really difficult. I've done detoxing for many years, but the fasting was actually a lot easier than I thought. And all I was doing was just giving my body a break between meals so that I could go into rest and digest. So our nervous systems get really overstimulated. And for many of us, we live in fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, which are the stress responses that we live in. And we want to really change that to go into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is rest and digest. So when we do yoga and meditation, and when we fast, and when we do all of these things, we're giving our bodies a chance to reset. So when we see things, everything is spiritual, we can actually change our habits quite easily because it feels like devotion. So how do we manifest? So this is a beautiful formula that I've learned. And, radiant health and wellness, a successful business, a deep, loving, soul-shaking connection with your partner, whatever it is that you want to manifest, this is an amazing formula that I use. And I learned this through a program I'm doing called Your Year of Miracles. It's so beautiful. It's got Jack Canfield and Marianne Williamson and Dr. Sue Mortner and Marcy Shimhoff. And these people are like in my inbox every day at the moment. And these are like the biggest thought leaders. It's an American program, but like that's what I'm tuning into every day. Like I'm reading their emails, I'm listening to their content. And when we are really mindful and use a lot of discernment around what we're consuming, that's life-changing, because I'm all about elevating my vibration and changing my reality and manifesting what I really want in my life. So the formula that I've been using all of this year is we focus our attention on it, right? Whatever it is that we want to manifest. So we focus our attention on it and we set the intention, right? So we set the intention of what we want to do. We then focus our attention on it. And then this is the hardest part, right? We then have to release all tension to make it happen. So that's the trickiest thing to do, because we start to second guess and question, and why isn't it happening? And I don't believe that I'm co-creating my life with the universe. And I keep creating more drama and chaos, and I don't know how to stop that. So this is a really beautiful formula. So if we want radiant health and wellness, we want to set the intention to feel good in our body. We want to focus on it, like we have to take inspired action, right? Like we have to take inspired action to make it happen. And then we just have to release all outcome, right? If you want to eat the chocolate and drink the wine and eat the chips, that's cool, but don't sabotage yourself afterwards, because that's what we do as human beings. So does that resonate with you as a formula? Because when we really understand this, like I have a God box that I love to use where I'll write down my intentions in the God box. It's a really pretty box, and I've got it somewhere, and I've covered it all in just up here. And it's got all like affirmations all on it. And I literally will write down what I want to manifest, right, as an intention. And I put it in my God box, and then I focus on it, and then I just hand it over to God. I don't think about it again. I don't sabotage it. I focus my attention on it with my decisions and my choices, but I hand it over and I release all attachment to it. And that's how we manifest. So I want you now to rate something that's causing you a stressful feeling. I want you to rate that for me on a scale of 1 to 10. So it could be a sensation in your body. It could be something that's happening in your external reality that's causing you a lot of discomfort. And I want you to rate that for me on a scale of 1 to 10. And for those that have followed me for a while, you know I love heart coherence. It's a really beautiful practice. I know many of you already practice heart coherence. But I wanted to guide you through this practice. Like I did this in a room full of male engineers last week, and it was very interesting watching their reaction. Like they're very analytical, they're all about the process. My husband is an engineer. But what this does is it allows us to get into our heart's intelligence. And our intuition is not from our third eye. That's commonly believed in the spiritual world. That's the periscope, right? That's the periscope for our intuition. Our intuition actually lives in our heart. It lives in our heart energy and our heart space. And research has shown that we have a cranial brain, we have a brain in our gut, and we have a heart brain as well. Like that just kind of blows my mind to think that we have a little brain in our heart. And it's actually our heart that is communicating with our cranial brain how we feel. So we evoke a feeling, right? We get a feeling, could be walking down the road and we're just happy for no reason, right? And we just feel like totally connected in that moment. There's nothing particular that's made us feel that way, but we can just feel this beautiful connection. So that feeling invokes a thought. Oh, I feel really good today. You know, I'm noticing the trees. I feel really in alignment. And that then starts to create our reality because our thoughts are sparks of energy that go out to the universe. On the flip side of that, we might wake up, we might have tension in our bodies, we may have stayed up a bit too late. You know, our kids are not listening to us. We're going down that rabbit hole, and the feeling is creating the thought, and we get stuck in a cycle. And then our whole day just doesn't flow, right? We've all had situations where that might happen to us. So what heart coherence does is it activates our heart's intelligence, and it gives us the opportunity to change our feeling state around a situation. So it's one of my favorite practices, because if I'm having a really challenging moment with one of my children, I can go into heart coherence and I can change the way I feel about that situation, which will then change the outcome of the situation. So I'd love to share this practice with you. So if you feel really safe and comfortable to do so, you're very welcome to close your eyes. And I'm going to invite you now to just place 2 fingers on the center of your chest. And just start to deepen the breath. Just inhale through the nose. Taking a big exhale out of the mouth. With a big sigh, just letting go of all effort to be here in this moment. Inhale through the nose. Exhale out through the mouth. Just signifying to our body that we are very safe now in this moment. And I want you now to think of a stressful thought or feeling or situation. And just rate that for me on a scale of 1 to 10. So 10 being really intense and 1 being not intense at all. So when you've found that stressful thought or feeling, I invite you now to turn all your feelings into high vibrational feelings of gratitude, appreciation, joy, and freedom. I want you to use the power of your imagination now, and almost like a movie of images moving through your mind, think about all the things that you are deeply grateful for in this moment. It could be the simplest of things, the sunshine on your skin, the taste of your coffee or cacao this morning, a smile from a stranger, or just being here right now in this moment. Just keep focusing all those feelings of gratitude, appreciation, freedom, and care. Use every fiber of your being to elevate this feeling state. Focusing on the breath, the placement of your hand on your heart, elevating that feeling. Just allow yourself to be consumed by this feeling. And when you're ready, with no rush, no agenda, just looking around now for that thought or stressful feeling or situation, and just rating it again. Now, if that is a 2 or below, that's fantastic. That's our aim of this practice. If it's over a 2, it may still be a 5 or a 6, and that's okay. I invite you to go back into this practice until you bring that thought or feeling or stressful situation down to a 2. I have a recording of heart coherence. I'm happy to share that with you. And this is one of the most powerful practices that I've ever experienced on my 20 years of being a spiritual seeker. So just bringing yourself back into the room now. And just share with me in the chat box any of that experience, what your number is now, whether you've done that before, and how that feels for you. And thank you for allowing me to guide you in that practice. So today, ladies, we're going to look at the 3 keys. We've obviously experienced that heart coherence practice. You could win a free session with me. We'll do a draw at the end. And then, of course, there's an invitation for us to continue the journey, and we'll have a Q&A as well. So everything you deeply desire is on the other side of your fear. And this is something that my personal journey has taught me time and time and time again, not just once or twice, but time and time and time again. And so I'd love to just share with you my story. I know some of you may have heard it before, some of you, you've never met me before. Ultimately, I was pretty happy during my life. I traveled the world. I went to 65 countries. I hadn't really experienced any kind of soul-shaking experience. I went to university. I studied psychology, and life was pretty crazy. I went to 65 countries, I think. Before I was 30, I'd been to 50 countries. I've now been to about 65. Like, I would travel and feel so free. And until I really came to Australia, which was 20 years ago, I'd had the odd heartbreak along the way, like we do. But I fell in love with an Australian man, and he was a surfer, and we met in Bondi, and this whole cliched love story. I was an English backpacker, and we ended up moving back to the UK and living in the UK, and then doing a lot more traveling before we came back to Australia. But we had a child, and his name is Lael, and he's 14 now. But by the time Lael was 2, our marriage had fallen apart, our communication had gone, and he said to me, we need to separate. I'm not in love with you anymore. And it was one of those moments in life where I just knew my whole world was going to change in that moment. It was literally like someone had just pulled up the rug from under me. Like, I just remember it so clearly, that moment of, it was Christmas Day. I had my whole family over from England. I was hosting Christmas, and I found him in the bedroom crying on the bed. And we'd actually met on Christmas Eve 8 years prior to that. And he was just like, I feel numb. I don't love you. I don't have love for anyone. I don't feel love for our son. Like, it was just this really, really dark, scary time for both of us. And without going into the story too much, it was the end of my marriage, and I was 35, and I was devastated to be a single mother. It was just not what my vision board had said, I was just like, what is happening? And it was a massive adjustment. I had to move to an apartment. I had to go back to the corporate world. I had to work. And I was experiencing an extraordinary amount of stress and trauma in my body. I was having regular panic attacks. And it led me onto this soul-seeking journey of becoming a yoga teacher, learning how to breathe, like learning how to manage what was happening in my body. I wanted to go out there and inspire others. My mission was to keep families connected. So I started my own business. I kind of had, this light bulb moment. I went to a yoga festival. I saw this kids yoga business. I handed over an extraordinary amount of money to become a franchise of this business. And I went out there and I really changed my pain. I turned my pain into a business that was really positive. I taught kids yoga and mindfulness. I had 10 teachers working for me. We'd go out into schools and childcare. And I really created this beautiful offering to the world. And that led me to write my book, Mother On, which went on to help thousands and thousands of mothers around the world. It's won awards. And that led me to being a speaker. Because when you're an author, you know, you start to do speaking events. And I had always dreamed of being a speaker. I used to pitch to my teddy bears, and I'd always dreamed of having this platform. And I was speaking with Mia Friedman on stage at a conference, and I got invited to join a team of facilitators working in the corporate world. And so for the last 5 years, I've been doing that. I've worked with huge clients, Apple, Amazon, Google, huge thought leaders, and I've gone and taught them wellness. And I'm so grateful for that platform that has allowed me to go out there to teach hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. But I'll never forget that moment where I was a single mom. I was in my apartment. My son, who has now been diagnosed, at the time he was only 4, so we didn't have a diagnosis, and he would really mask all day and come home and just explode. And it was really hard for me to be in this situation. And I remember once I locked him in the laundry. He was smashing stuff up. He was throwing stuff around my apartment, and I just couldn't cope. And I'd locked him in the laundry or shut the door because I just had to just breathe. And then when I finally was able to regulate and open the door, like, he'd weed all in the laundry basket, and, you know, he's sobbing and I'm sobbing. And like, we're just having this moment where I'm like, I just cannot cope with this. Like, I have to change my life in this moment. Like, this is just not okay. And I remember in that moment, I made this commitment to go out there and be of service. My mission has always been to keep families connected. Everything I've ever done has been about connection. So even though I go into all these corporate offices and I teach emotional intelligence and resilience and, you know, burnout, what I'm actually teaching is connection. I'm teaching connection to self, which allows us to have connection with others, which allows us to have a connection to our world. So I'm very grateful for my journey, and I've created lots of different businesses along the way. And I co-authored a book in 2020 called Awakening, and I've shared that chapter with some of you. I've trained with the Institute of Intuitive Intelligence, and I'm really passionate now about my soul work is to transform women on their path of awakening. And that's what I'm doing right now. So thank you for allowing me to share my story with you. And I hope maybe you've had a time in your life where, you know, you've had one of those moments where you're like, you're on your knees, you've had a health crisis, you've gone through something really difficult, and you're like, in that moment, your whole life changed. So here's just some really scary truth bombs of why I'm so committed to doing this work. So 90% of all illness is caused by stress. So stress causes inflammation in the body, and that leads to disease, right? It's simple. So I'm on a mission to help people reduce their stress. 1 in 4 females, you can see the stats there, had a mental health disorder. So this is obviously after, you know, during the pandemic, right? It's significantly more now. Like, we are really only seeing the effects of the world being shut down now. Mental health, domestic violence, so many issues now are out of control. Like, we are in a global health crisis, epidemic, pandemic, whatever you want to call it. We are getting sicker and sicker. And I read an article recently that there was a research done by the Australian Wellbeing Index that Australians are the unhappiest they've been in 20 years. I think I shared that with you when you read the information on this webinar. Like, that to me is kind of shocking, because we live in the most beautiful, wealthy, free of war, you know, freedom of speech. We live in this beautiful country, right? Like, I love living in Australia, but we are so unhappy. And it's because of our mind. And it's because that we are overloaded and we are overworked, and we just really struggle to have self-trust. And I know that I go into overwhelm, you know, every time I'm having a conflict with my child, or I'm fighting for them in a system that doesn't support them. Like, we go in and out of feeling in alignment and chaos and overwhelm. But we need the tools to be able to bring ourselves back. Like, the formula for burnout is exhaustion. We all know what that feels like. It's self-doubt, and then it's cynicism. So we're so negative about our life that we get into a cycle where we cannot cope anymore, and then we're at chronic burnout, and then we can't do anything, right? Then we can't be of service to anyone or anything. So 50% of marriages end in divorce. I'm really passionate about changing that statistic. You know, I've been through a divorce. I'm remarried now. I have 2 more beautiful children. Oh, that was an image of me with my beautiful family now. So there's Lael and my kids, Luna and Phoenix, and my beautiful husband. So I'm remarried now, and that's a really positive story. But that to me, again, is a really shocking statistic, because relationships are all about communication. And if we can't communicate with ourselves, how can we communicate with someone else? So if we can't take ownership of our thoughts and feelings and emotions, if we don't have accountability, that's a big topic that I teach in corporate, being accountable, how can we go out there and have flourishing relationships? So I have always believed that health and relationships must be our top priority. Do you agree with that? Yes, our spiritual journeys and other things are of course a priority, but without our health, and without having deeply nourishing, loving, supporting relationships in our life, that leads us to going into stress, overwhelm, burnout, disease. So I'm really passionate about helping people with their health and wellness and getting them to prioritize their relationships. And their number one relationship is with who? With you, with yourself. So these are the biggest challenges that I see my clients facing. So again, if we really want to step into our highest potential, we have to learn how to master these skills, which is overcoming fear, mastering the art of time, which I've already alluded to. It's not about time, it's about energy, and really trusting ourselves, like really having that sovereignty and that power inside of us to say, no, I don't agree with what you're saying, or I'm going to go out there and make that change. Or, you know, I have been told over my lifetime, I'm too loud, I'm too much, I'm too intense, I'm too domineering, I'm too masculine, I'm too feminine, like, oh my God, right? Like the list goes on. And we have to get to that point where we just stand in our power and say, this is me. If you don't like my vibe, you can fuck off, right? Because I am sick of masking and hiding and conforming. Like, no, I'm sorry. I'm getting to that point where I'm going to be hitting my midlife, right? And we put all this armor on ourselves, and then we become, you know, our late 40s, our early 50s, and then we kind of have this midlife crisis because the universe is like, drop the armor. You can't hold it anymore. So I'm going to give you a massive health crisis, or I'm going to put you through a really traumatic experience. So you drop your armor and you show the world who you are, and you evolve on your journey. I get quite passionate when I talk about these things. So this is a photo from Bali. It's probably my favorite one, where I really wanted to just show other women that power of bearing your soul. So this is a really safe space for us to share and connect. That's something I'm really proud of. I hold a really safe space for women to transform. And are you ready, ladies? Like, I look for women who are on the edge, right? Like, I attract women who are on the edge of transformation. So if that is you, I'm so happy to have met you and connected with you. And we are not broken, right? We don't need to be fixed. We just need to return to wholeness and wellness. That's all. And that can be a lifetime, of course, of making sure we're nourishing our body and getting enough sleep and having sacred intimacy or whatever it is, right? But we really want to return to wholeness and wellness. And that's what I'm really excited about doing in my life. How do we do that? How do we overcome these challenges? So I learned through my training with the Institute of Intuitive Intelligence that there are actually laws that govern the universe. I was kind of like, wow, that's really exciting. Because when we have a child, like, there's no guidebook, right? It's like, here's a child, now you have to feed it and deal with it and clothe it and raise it. And it's just the most beautiful and connected experience, but it's also really, really intense and overwhelming. And there's no manual, right? And every child is different. So when I did my yoga training after I'd gone through my divorce, I loved the fact that there were principles to yoga, right? There are guidelines we can follow, right? Be a good person, be kind, let go of what doesn't serve you, cleanse your body, detox your mind. Like the niyamas and the yamas and niyamas are the principles of yoga. So when I kind of discovered that there were universal laws, I was like, well, that's really cool. Because surely all we need to do is abide by those laws, and then we can go out there and create this magical life. And so the first law that I want to share with you is, it sounds really heavy, it sounds really intense, but it's actually, when you practice it, it's quite simple. And it's the law of mentalism. And we're going to dive into these laws a little bit now. They're pretty big. And, you know, I have a beautiful program called Wild Wellness where we really dive into this. But I wanted to just share with you what they are and how they can help you. So we want to overcome our fear, right? Because when we're in our fear, we're in our comfort zone and we're staying small and we're hiding and we're not being visible and we're doing all the things that our protective personality, right, is keeping us there. So we have a protective personality, your ego, whatever, you know, psychological term you want, it's protecting us. It's trying to protect us, right? Oh, you shouldn't do that. What will people think of you? You shouldn't wear that. Who do you think you are, right? It's all bullshit. It's values and beliefs that people have said to you, that have gone into your subconscious mind, that are now telling you the way you should be in the world. So I have learned on my journey and my trainings that fear is not negative. Fear is a messenger. Like when I feel really fearful, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go there and I'm going to get curious and I'm going to see what I need to learn from this experience. I don't run away from it. Unless, you know, it's a car that's about to, you know, run me over, then I'm going to run away, right? Like my fight or flight stress response will kick in and I'll get out the way. But what I'm talking about here is psychological fear. Because our mind and our brain does not know the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. So we don't know the difference between what's real and what's not. Right? So if we have a genuine perceived threat that's threatening our safety, we're going to respond in a habitual way, right? We're going to run, we're going to fight, we're going to freeze, we're going to go into a stress response. But for many of us, the stories we tell ourselves are perceived threats. They're not actually real. Does that resonate with you? Right? We watch the news. I never watch the news. I hate watching the news. It is so negative. It's like, we're all going to die. The world is in chaos. Like, it's not negative. It's so negative. Like, I used to love living in Australia because there'd always be like a positive news story at the end. They don't even do that anymore, right? It's just fear-based tactics. It's such a horrible space. So if we're consuming a lot of content that is really negative, like my husband loves staying up watching, like, I don't know, war movies or like Game of Thrones. I just cannot go there, right? Because I'm probably wired to, you know, I have a neurodiverse brain. I get stuck on a thought and I cannot get it out of my head. So I am now living in Vikings. Vikings are hot and sexy, but it's very brutal, very violent, right? So it's kind of like I don't want that in my energy field, because I know that if I've got that in my energy field, I'm going to manifest that in my world. And I don't want to manifest death and chaos, right? So that's how we're wired. I am loving Manifest, by the way. That is epic. And we're on the final season, so I don't know if you're watching it, but it's brilliant. And it's also all about how everything is connected and how we totally create our destiny. So it's a really good show on Netflix. So law of mentalism is about overcoming our fears. The fact that we don't fully trust ourselves relates to the second law of the universe, which is the law of correspondence. And the third law of the universe, the law of vibration, is when we tell ourselves we don't have enough time. So we're going to dive into these a little bit now. So what is the law of mentalism and how can it help you on your journey? So the law of mentalism ultimately is that all is of the one mind, like all is of the one mind of the universe. And also all is one. So there's no separation. There's no separation between me and you and the rest of the universe. So it's this beautiful concept of wholeness. So if we are out there feeling a lot of unforgiveness towards someone who's hurt us, we are actually just hurting ourselves, because all is one. And this is, a whole conversation here. And I'm just giving you like the kind of the iceberg, literally like the tip of the iceberg right now. Because what this means is when we really understand the concept of oneness, we change the way we think about fear. We think fear is bad and negative, and we have to push it down, and we have to suppress it, and we have to run away from it. It's not the case, because we're all one. Everything is connected, right? So fear is actually leading us back to the truth of who we are. And the truth of who we are is that we are these magnificent beings full of radiant wellness, energy, and light. And when we feel we are not separate from that, we create all our suffering. So if you could see how I see you, or how my sisters who I've trained with through the Institute, like we see women in this divine light. It is magical. We see you through the eyes of God, through the eyes of the universe. We see unlimited potential because we've been trained that way, but we've also seen it in our own journeys. Like when we really understand that our fear is our teacher, and when we get to work with fear in a really constructive way, we know there's so much magic. Like we are fear huntresses that go out and look for fear. We're like, give me the fear, give me the worry, give me the self-doubt, give me that voice in my head that says I'm not good enough, because it's bullshit and I want to overcome that, because I know on the other side of that is magic and miracles. And let me talk about miracles, because miracles are fucking everywhere. Everywhere, all the time. And we can't create a miracle because that's divine intervention, but we can create the conditions for them to happen. And we do that when we understand that we are all connected and all is one, the entire universe. And like I love to tell people when they say my name, which is Leonie, but they pronounce it Leonie, right? Like it's an Australian thing. But I love to say to them, the way they pronounce it, it's like Princess Leia and then me, right? So I do this whole dance where I say, my name's Princess Leonie. And they're like, oh, I got it now, cool. But what's really cool about that is that when you think of Princess Leia in Star Wars and that holographic image, right? She's this tiny little Princess Leia, and the holographic image is her like in the whole universe, right? Like that is who we are. We are this little image, this little hologram, right? We are connected to the whole universe. We are an intrinsic part of the universe. Therefore, the universe is inside of us, right? So how can we sit in our littleness if we've got the whole universe inside of us? Like we're so powerful. We can go out there and create, and whatever we want to create. I don't know, that just excites me so much to know that that is possible. There's no time for bullshit here. There's no time. Well, you cannot sit in your unworthiness and want to go out there and create a magical life. It's not possible. So 90% of our thoughts are subconscious, which means we don't actually know what we're thinking about because they're subconscious. So our purpose is to use mindfulness to really become clear around what we're thinking and feeling. Like mindfulness is such a beautiful, beautiful ancient practice, and it's a real hot topic, and it has been for years, and I teach mindfulness a lot in my corporate space. But what I believe our evolution is to go from mindfulness to what I call heartfulness. That's living really connected to our heart's energy, our heart's intelligence, which is where our intuitive intelligence is. We cannot do that in chaos. How many times have you had a shower and you get this like, oh my God, inspiration? Or you've been walking in nature, or you've been having an orgasm, or whatever it is, right? You're just connected to oneness and you get that clarity that you've been looking for. It does not come in chaos, it comes in stillness. Like every product I've created, everything I've channeled has come to me in stillness, or when I've been in nature, or I've been in what I like to call a soul care strategy that we come up with when we work together in Wild Wellness. We come up with our soul care strategy. So when I'm doing that, I'm in a state of flow, which is actually a really great way of managing stress, because not all stress is bad for you. There's something called eustress. And so distress, right, is bad. Eustress is good stress. So good stress is when we get into a state of flow and we're motivated and we've got a deadline. Like, you know, I'm doing all my slides for my masterclass today. Like, I've got a deadline and I'm feeling really good. My well-being is really activated. So it's good stress. This is good stress, right? Good for our well-being, good for our productivity, good for our mental health. So again, it's understanding all of this and knowing when you need to step up and be a leader, and knowing when you need to just rest and reflect. You know, it's this daily dance between head and heart. But your fear and your intuition are actually the same thing, because all is one. Right? Because people always say to me, how do I know the difference between what my head is saying and what my heart is saying? And so that discernment of understanding what the ego is saying and what your intuition is saying, that's a journey that we need to go on. So I'm really passionate about helping women step up and speak their truth. So ladies, do you have any questions? Like, I know some of you probably know this already, but can you resonate with how this could actually be something that you could practice in your own life? Because we know when we're breaking the law. When you go into blame, shame, complain, you've broken the law. Like, my beautiful parents, who I haven't seen for 3 years, have been visiting. Oh my God, they are so fixed in their mindset. Like, me and my brother and sister, we all live in Australia. We were all texting each other going, I can't deal with it. They are the victim mindset. It's everyone else's fault. They abdicate responsibility. They don't rest when they're sick. It's really funny, actually, because the lineage is so strong, right? Like, I can just see where the ADHD and the ASD comes from. I'm like, oh yeah. Wow. Just really interesting. I love them very much, but we've been quite shocked about how much their mindset is so negative. And so we don't want to be in a fixed mindset. We want to be in a growth mindset, right? Where we're open to a world of possibility. So the second law, and this is a beautiful, beautiful law. And so this is ultimately when we understand the law of correspondence, and really it's the law of communication. This is another great way of talking about that law. So we know that science has told us that we create our reality in each moment. So what that means is we need to have spiritual self-esteem. We need to be able to take a negative feeling and turn it into a positive feeling. So we use practices like heart coherence to change our vibration, right? So I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling stressed, I've got some tension in my body, whatever it is, right? We're not feeling in alignment. So we use the tools, like I use EFT tapping, I use heart congruence, I use dance, I use sex, I use all kinds of things, right? To change my vibration. Because I know that if I'm in those low vibrational feelings for days, weeks, months, years, all I'm doing is attracting that in my external world. I totally manifested my divorce. Like, I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, like, you manifest what you do want and what you don't want. I didn't want 3 kids. I never wanted 3 kids. I'd look at people with 3 kids and go, what are you doing? You've only got 2 hands. And I've got 3 kids. Right? It's like, whatever you're focusing on, you're going to attract. Like, doesn't that just like blow your mind? Like, we spend so long trying to protect ourselves, saying, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. And the universe goes, here you go. You've just manifested that. Right? We're that powerful. So we are always co-creating. As above, so below. So what this law tells us ultimately is what's happening on the inside of us, inside our body, our emotions, our thoughts, and our feelings. What that means is you're going to attract exactly the same in your external world, exactly the same situations. So if you're sitting in a space of forgiveness and compassion, and you're able to change your vibrational feeling state, you're going to attract more love and connection and opportunities and clients. You're going to attract all of that, because the universe is just going to match it for you. right? It's a perfect match. But if you're sitting in worry, grief, shame, you can see the map of consciousness here. I love this map of consciousness. It shows you the energetic frequency of an emotion. Shame is at the bottom. Shame is the heaviest feeling we can ever feel. When my daughter got diagnosed with autism and my kids have different dads, I felt so much shame because it's clearly me, right? They've been birthed through me. It's clearly me that's given them this disorder. And I hate the fact that it's called disability. It makes me so angry. It's not a disorder or a disability. I use the word autism. I don't like ASD. It's not a disorder. It's a fucking gift. It just has to be nourished and nurtured in a way. And the world doesn't see it that way. So I will be fighting for my kids. And I've got so many friends who are neurodiverse and they're so beautiful and they're so creative and they go out there and they make radical change in the world. And it's really inspiring. But we can't sit in feelings of guilt and shame because all we're going to do is manifest more of that. It's okay to feel it. You can have your pity party. You can watch Netflix. You can eat all the chocolate. And then you have to get the fuck over it. It's not going to serve you or anybody else. So we must prioritize our well-being. Like if we're not prioritizing our well-being, we can't get into that space of manifesting what we want. It's really important. So the third law, and we will jump into a Q&A, and I'm happy to answer all your questions around this. But this is beautiful, this law. The law of vibration, right? Everything is vibrating around us all of the time. We are fields and fields and fields of energy, right? Like things might look really solid in our world, but it's not. It's just masses of particle moving very slowly, very densely. And this is such a life-changing law. Because for me, I'm like, well, I'm not going to put a whole load of carbs and shit in my body because that's just going to make me feel really heavy and dense. I don't want to be feeling heavy and dense. I want to feel light and free. And yes, we did go out for burgers last night and I really felt it in my body. I felt terrible. And yes, they were delicious, right? But I really felt it. I was like, oh God, I just ate like a burger and chips. Oh, like it's nice to do occasionally, but I'm not going to do that every night, right? I love eating light because the law of vibration, it's like, you know how you feel when you feel light, right? You feel connected. So everything is energy. So for example, I had lots of anxiety in 2020, like really, really full on. And I could, because I'm a highly sensitive person, I could feel the world. I could feel the fear. I could feel the whole world constricting with COVID, right? And it made me really anxious. And I had to change my lifestyle. I don't drink coffee anymore. That was a long breakup. It was like the lover you keep going back to, even though it's really bad for you, right? Like I love coffee. I still smother it on my body in masks, but I just don't drink it. I've got really clean with my sleep. You know, my sleep hygiene is now, you know, I won't sacrifice sleep. I won't drink alcohol anymore because it fucks with your sleep. Sorry, I do swear a bit. But, you know, like you can't get into deep sleep if you drink alcohol. You can only get into light sleep. You know, it changes your lifestyle choices when you really understand this law. And I love this notion. So this is an image of a torus field. So this is basically what we look like. We've got this beautiful field of energy around us all of the time. And what happens to us is we get these leakages and these blockages that come into our energetic field, right? Like we have a relationship breakdown and we've got this massive hole in our energetic field and we're leaking out all this energy. And we feel really negative about ourselves and, you know, why does this happen to me? And we go into all the victim mindset, and that's okay. Like I was in the victim mindset for 3 years after my divorce, right? Like I know what it feels like and I know how hard it is to get out of that. But I understand now that there is a vortex of energy around us and we have the power to change our emotional state. So Dr. Sue Mortner, who I'm seriously in love with through this Year of Miracles program, teaches central channel breathing. And it's just amazing because you basically breathe through the central channel of your body. You breathe from your belly, you breathe through your heart and your throat and up through your crown. But what you do is you inhale up from the earth, right? So you've got all this beautiful energy of Mother Gaia. And then you exhale up. You exhale up to the universe. And then you take all that beautiful light and you bring it back down into your body and you anchor it into your being. And then you exhale it down to the earth. It has been the most amazing practice because we need to anchor our physical bodies and bring down that energy so that we can then go out and spread that to others. So go Google Central Channel Breath. It's been my favorite practice this year. And I will teach that to you if you just decide to come on a journey with me. So our intuition is the bridge between worlds, our beautiful imagination. Like my kids have the most phenomenal imaginations. Like my son has created an entire multiverse. And I'm like, that's going to be an amazing comical game. Like it's amazing what he's created. So we have to keep our imaginations active because it's the bridge between the 3D world and the 5D world, and our intuition is that bridge. So I want to just share with you now, there is going to be an invitation for us to continue our journey together. So I want to share with you some client testimonials of women that I have supported that have taken my program. So I've run my program 3 times. And every time I run it, I change it and I add in more content and I really intuitively work with the women in my group. This is my beautiful client, Becky. She's done every single program I've ever launched and she's an author now and she's just the most beautiful human. And so you can see she started off reading my book, Mother Om. She then came and did a mentor program that I had where I helped her create a business. And then she did heartfulness training, which is now the Wild Wellness Journey. So she really understands how to co-create her life with reality. So this is Kelly. Kelly came from a program I did last year, which was about launching products and services. And this is the strategy, right? And Kelly came to me through that program and she's a rock star business coach. And she was intuitive and she knew that, but she wanted to like have that non-negotiable devotion to her intuition. And she discovered how to do that through working with me. How to really step into her power. And, you know, she very kindly says, I've been a transformational force in her life. So I honor those words. This is my beautiful client, Katie. And Katie is still one of my clients. Katie works in corporate. And she, again, knows there's more out there. You know, she wanted to really connect with the universe and magic and miracles and possibility. And she shared some very, very kind words. And then these are more testimonials from women, but I love this photo that was taken on retreat in Bali of me teaching women because I got a sacred marking. Me and my husband celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary last year and we're both divorced and our marriages didn't quite make it to 5 years. So we were like, we need to get matching tattoos. And they're both really beautiful. So I have a lioness, my name means little lioness, and I have Mary Magdalene's cross. And we have this beautiful, you know, I have a feather for Phoenix, an arrow for Lael, and a moon for my daughter Luna. But this is my sacred marking. And I love this photo because it shows you my marking. And I will use this as guidance. You know, it's a sacred marking that was intuitively designed so that I remind myself every day of my passion and my power. And that I can stand up and show people how to live in this world in a new way. And my husband's one is beautiful. He's got a wolf. So we're a lioness and a wolf. How cool is that? So let's review. We've talked about overcoming our fears. We know the importance of prioritizing our well-being. We know the importance of managing our energy. We know how important it is to trust our intuition and to speak our truth, and that daily devotion is essential. So I've come up with a beautiful program called Wild Wellness. And what that stands for, the wild stands for W is well-being, I is intuition, L is leadership, and D is devotion. And these are the 4 elements that I stand up every day and I aspire to be the best leader I can be, to lead others, to show people the magic that's out there. I am 100% connected to my intuition. Like I never, ever ignore it. Like I moved my entire family based on my intuition during COVID. We now live surrounded by trees and birds, and we have this amazing community where the kids play on the street every day. And, you know, my kids started new schools, and my daughter's learning violin, and she's such a musical kid. And, you know, we just got her school report yesterday, and she's like really flourishing. And I didn't even know this school had such a big music program. And just, you know, my intuition was just like, you have to move to this area. And it didn't make sense at the time, but now I look back and go, this is exactly where we were meant to be. So sometimes your intuition tells you to do radical shit and you're like, that's going to be really expensive and that's really inconvenient, but I have to trust it. I have to follow it. So this is why I've come up with this strategy for you. And you can see finding your soul care strategies is so important. So this is a checklist, and I'm happy to give this to you. But on the Wild Wellness journey, the first thing we do is, what are your soul care strategies? So if you don't know what they are, how can you bring yourself back into alignment? And so, yes, it's easy to say, this is how I help my mind relax, and movement, you know, movement is the fastest way to reduce stress, could be dance, walk, whatever. But what do you do to cultivate more love? What do you do to actively connect to your purpose every day? How are you connecting with your intuition? What are you doing for devotion? And how are you connecting to your wildness? I am the ultimate wild woman. She's in my being, and we will get raw and vulnerable, and I will hold you, and I will tell you I'm not afraid for you when you release your fear. There is freedom on the other side of fear. And so we really work with a very individualized, personalized plan for you. And it's a group program, and I already have women booked in. It's a group program, and it's the magnitude and the power of the women that come in. Like, I'm just guiding it, right? There are women in there transforming, and it's so inspiring. So you're going to get improved health and wellness, because you're going to have a lot more energy, and you're going to have that time and energy to really dedicate to the things that you love. You're going to have a deeper connection with those you love. You're just going to be radiating out this energy, and everyone's going to be like, what are you doing? Give me some of that. And you're going to have radical self-trust at the end of our time together. So Wild Wellness is a 9-week journey, and you can transform in 9 weeks. So I want you to rate again, how do you feel now? So I'm going to wrap things up soon. I've talked at you for an hour, right? How do you feel now? Like, where's your number? So what did you rate at the beginning of our call? And where's your number now? And how do you feel having absorbed that content? I'd love to know. Share with me in the chat box. I'm going to come back in and, turn the screen off soon, and we're going to have a Q&A about that. But my intention for our time together was to inspire you and to give you some practical tools so you can understand that you are 100% in control of your emotions. You're actually not in control of anything else. So let me repeat that. You are only in control of your emotional well-being, which affects your physical well-being and your spiritual well-being, because all is one, right? Mind-body connection is one. All is one. First law. Nothing's separate. So I would love to know your thoughts and feelings. So was a 5 feeling great? Beautiful. Yes, I'm very passionate about this. A lot of fire right now. So beautiful women. There's 4 of us on the call. So we're going to go into a draw, into a giveaway. So beautiful. Is Catherine still here? I'm not sure if Catherine is still here. Catherine may have to drop off. So basically, there's 2 of us now who are up for the giveaway. So ultimately, I'm going to ask, let me see, what's the question here? I am most curious about connecting to my intuition. Awesome. I'm going to ask my son to pick a number, either 1 or 2, right? Because there's 2 of you here, and you are number 1. Agatha and Meredith, you are number 2. So I'm going to ask him to do it, right? And then one of you will win an intuitive guidance session with me, okay? But before I do that, I just want to share with you one of my other favorite images from my photo shoot. And I love Princess Diana. I'm one of these people that just watches all the content on her. because what she did is the world fell in love with her. They fell in love with this woman who was actually put through a really kind of horrific experience being part of the royal family. But her most famous quote is, "I don't go by the rule book. I lead from my heart." And that's what I try to do. And that's what I will teach you how to do. And so I want us to continue this journey together. It's not over. We're at the beginning of our journey. So I'm going to invite you now to book in another free session with me. And I call it a soul shake-up session, and it will shake your soul. And what it is, it's part of the intuitive intelligence method. So one of you will win an intuitive guidance session with me, but ultimately that's a 9-step process to return to wholeness. So the soul shake-up session is the first part of that process. And what it does is it allows me to identify what your dominant fears are, because don't forget they're subconscious, right? So I will identify what they are, and I'll tell you where they are in your body. And then if you feel called to come and work with me in Wild Wellness, I will offer that to you. Like, I don't believe in bullshit marketing. Like, you know, I'm launching my program in July and I'm calling in beautiful women at the moment. So I will send you a follow-up email with that Soul Shake-Up link. It's totally free. It's a 30-minute call. And we can have more time together where I can give you a personalized plan. Okay, so I can really tune into what you need and how we can move forward. I'm really excited to share that with you, and I'll send you all the links. So you've got that today in an email. Now, there was one more slide that I had, which I don't know where it is, but I'm going to stop sharing. And I'm just going to go and share one more thing. Maybe it's here. There should be one more slide. No, not there. I think it's on my desktop. Where's it gone? It should be here. You're going to now see my messy desktop. There was one more slide. Here it is. Is it there? Here. Okay, so I also have, this should have been in the presentation. I don't know why it wasn't. But I also have a full moon circle that is happening on the 2nd of July. So I love to run circles for women to bring them together to really show you the tools that I use as an intuitive guide. And I don't know what we're going to be doing because I really trust my intuition and I channel what we're going to be doing. And there might be dancing, and there might be some, there's going to be releasing, and could be EFT or we use lots of different tools. But I wanted to also invite you to come to a Wild Woman full moon circle with me on Sunday, the 2nd of July. But I will share all of this with you in a follow-up email. So don't worry about it. No worries if you won't be able to do the course. I totally understand that. I totally understand that as well. Oh, so if you want to offer the session, oh, well, that's so beautiful of you. Okay, so Meredith, it's yours. Oh, that's just so beautiful. Yes, I think he's actually waiting for his laptop because he's 14, and we are doing a beautiful sparkle art flower for my parents, and it's been so beautiful, right? Because my kids have been really into it, and they've all done little parts of the flower, and there's just like such a tiny bit left. And I've said to him, finish the flower and you get your laptop. So I'm hopeful that he's actually done it. But thank you, beautiful, beautiful woman, that she's passing on that gift to you, Meredith. And I really, that's really beautiful. I appreciate that. Because I wanted it to be, you know, like, I don't want to be like, oh, there's only 2 of you here. And it's like, pick me. And I wanted to do it really intuitively. So that's really beautiful. So Meredith, connect with me when you get that email from me, respond back to me, and you've got a intuitive guidance session, which is worth $222. And it's an amazing, life-changing, and yeah, and how do you say your name? Is it Agathe or Agatha? Let me know.
Agathe. It's
Agathe.
It's like the stone.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So Agathe's also trained with the Institute as well. So she knows how powerful it is.
Yes.
So it's really, really kind of her to gift that to you. So thank you, beautiful woman. So ladies, I'm going to just end the recording now. So thank you so much for being here, and then we're going to go into a Q&A.